We are a blended family.
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 We're a blended family.
We are a blended family.
We are a blended family.
We are a blended family.
And we are a blended family. Hi, we're Doctors Larry and Carol Snap. We're glad to have you with us today, this afternoon here in Phoenix, Arizona. This one is week 8, ruled by yours, mine, and ours. I fondly refer to it as the dark side of step parenting. Biggest thing to know here, and we've talked about the pyramid before, but if there are problems in the blending of the family, and generally we're talking about with the kids, for some reason a husband and a wife don't have too much trouble blending. It's the blending part is with the kids. So if you're having problems blending your family, there's probably something out of order in the pyramid. Again, it's God, marriage, your personal relationship with God, your relationship with your spouse, your relationship with your kids, your relationship with everybody else, then your job, and then your ministry. It's got to be in that order. And if anything is out of order, you're going to have a lot of trouble trying to get everything to work. Okay? So whenever we do any counseling, we always try to figure out what's out of order in the pyramid, and then we try to get that corrected. So that's where we start here. Check the pyramid. If something's not working, figure out, okay, am I putting the kids up too high? Am I not paying enough, not working on my vertical enough, with God? Is there something between me and my spouse? What's going on? Okay, first thing to know, all things are possible with God. So if there are problems, just know that all things are possible with God. God's will is all about restoration and reconciliation. So Carol and I know that for sure. We went through a mess. God restored us and reconciled us. He restored the two of us, and he reconciled us to him. Okay? Not all marriages were entered into with God. Okay? People get married for all kind of reasons. There's a very, because of our sinful nature, there's a very good chance it was the wrong time to get married. It was the wrong reason to get married. And it probably was the wrong person. If you were going out looking for a spouse and God wasn't involved in that, you're probably going to be off track. Because you're looking to satisfy something that you want, some fleshly desire, and obviously God was not even consulted in that. So when that happens, there is no covenant. All right? The covenant is when God's involved. Because now there's you have exchanged vows with yourself, each other, the spouses have exchanged vows, and they have brought God into this. So now he's that third cord. He's the one that really holds it all together. The beauty of even a blended family, when God is first, it can be awesome. But when he's not, then everybody's looking at all the wrong stuff. They're looking at what's not working. The attitude is, what's in this for me? And they're not getting what they want. So everything's a problem. But if you get the right attitude and some wisdom in there, and you're actually working on a vertical relationship, just period, it can go a long way to making things work. Okay, at this point, I'll address, again, the dark side, because this is generally not a first marriage. There's more than likely a divorce in the past, at least one. You have exes that you have to deal with. And too many times we get things, again, out of order, and the ex has too much influence on this relationship. They're still trying to manage you. It's very important for this relationship to be the one that manages everything else outside. Exes, just baby daddies, whoever it is. You got to manage them to keep them from negative impact on you guys. And there are a lot of exes that are very vindictive, even children that don't like who you're trying to get married to. There's a lot of that going on.
Well, they don't want you to move on and be happy.
Right. Yeah, exactly. They're stuck in a bad place, and, misery loves company. So, and hurt people hurt people. So the ex that is unforgiving and wants to hurt you that's their life, is trying to come up with ways to hurt you.
And the kids are trying to figure out where they fit into this new relationship, this new family, and they do lash out from being hurt that, okay, Dad or Mom, you have this new family and you're with them 7 days a week. I get to see you every other week for 2 days. That's not fair. You're my dad or you're my mom. So they're trying to figure out where do they belong in this, and that is where a lot of problems come. That's why there should be a sit-down meeting and come up with the rules and consequences and how we're going to work together to make a blended family. We're going to have family night that we're going to do something all together, or once or every other week we're going to go to the movies, or include everybody in so they have a piece of this new family. But to not let them feel like just because they're there every other weekend they're not included.
Yeah,
it's important.
Yeah, one of those things, kind of like what you're saying, we've seen it a lot of times in counseling. The spouses get along great when the kids aren't around. And then the kids come in, they come, they go, and when they're there, when they're present, now all the crap happens, right? Like you said, the kids are angry, they're getting the short end of the stick here. And that's one of the things we're talking about here. Divorce is hardest on the kids. And frequently, the kids get used as weapons. One parent will withhold visitation or make it very inconvenient. And, the kids are like, they're the bait, right? So that's, like Carol was saying, it's important to get the kids on board and just say, hey, kids, your dad and me, we really screwed it up. But, we've learned some things. We're going to do something different. We got new things going on here. But I need you to forgive me for what I did. It was not your fault. Right? Let them know it was not their fault. Okay? Dealing with root causes. Okay? If there's been a divorce, why? You got to figure out why. And one of the big things in our other class, the Beyond Divorce class, is figure out what you did, right? And then own it.
And what you could have done better.
Right. There's always something you can do better. I mean, none of us are perfect. We can always do things better. Spend some time getting to know the person, getting to know, what God says about how to do these things and stuff like that. But most of us are just in it for whatever we can get out of things, and, it goes south. But we have to figure out what was the root cause that I did. What did I do? Not what did they do. What did I do? Kind of worked out everything's an A here. Anger, abuse, adultery, addictions, abandonment. Any of those, any or all of those. could be a root cause, but you have to deal with the effects of that. You know, in our other class, the people that are in the class are the ones that happened to. The one they got abused, they got abandoned, they got cheated on. You know, the spouse was addicted to something, drugs, gambling, who knows. But what we find is a lot of people are codependent. Wayne.
Once you identify the root causes, that's the perfect time to establish in yourself the changes that you have to make.
Mm-hmm.
And establish a very specific amount of change, how it's going to happen, and make it defined within yourself. And unless you complete all of those, identifying the root causes has served you no purpose.
That's right. Yeah, I mean, you have to deal with it. Not just identify it, but identification of the root is the first step. Good point. But, you know, what most of us do, we have this tree, not atom bomb here, okay? It's not a mushroom cloud, it's a tree. The tree produces fruit, which we call symptoms in this case, but it's based on the root system. And I think everybody knows if you pull something out of the ground and you get the roots, then it's gone. If you just cut it off, it'll grow back, right? But it's so much easier to just get rid of the fruit. You can trim the tree, you can prune it, you can pick the fruit off. But what does that do? Well, everything just comes back the next year or 6 months from now. The same thing, if you do not deal with the root causes, sooner or later those same issues are going to pop up again. And that's because it's really a defect in you. And like Wayne said, until you deal with those things that you've identified in yourself and purpose to change, you know, it's like change isn't change until it's changed, right? Sarah.
And also, just remembering that the only change that can take place is through prayer, and you can only change yourself when laying everything else on the altar. You know, the people, the children can only be responsible for themselves, and that constant prayer and forgiveness.
Right, and that's a good point right there, because as much as parents want to help their children heal, healing really is an inside job, right? Like you said, it takes, I mean, we can pray for our kids, we can give them the opportunities, but if they choose not to forgive or whatever, you can't help them, right? So, in dealing with the root causes, again, it's identifying what the real cause is and then taking care of it at this level. If all you do is, you know, if you take a pill for a runny nose, that doesn't fix the cold. It treats the symptom. Okay? Part of dealing with the root cause, kind of like Sarah said, rebuild the vertical relationship, which is confess the sin, repent, which is changing your mind and the way you think, receive God's forgiveness. So you have to ask for it, but then He's always faithful to give it. And then you have to forgive yourself, which I know a lot of people, they get through the first three things here. They confess, they repent, they receive God's forgiveness, but they can't forgive themselves. A lot of people are like that. For me, that was the most important thing for me, was to be able to forgive myself and move on and be the new creation that the Word says I am, so that I didn't have to continue to be for the rest of my life the thing I did, right? I didn't want to be attached to that. I wanted to be detached, okay? And that's where you forgive yourself.
Keep looking in the rearview mirror, you can never...
Yeah, you're going to run in the ditch sooner or later. And the vertical is, you have a relationship this way with God. Here's you, here's God. And when there's a sin, it puts a break there, a barrier. And in order to get that going again, you have to go through that process. And Psalm 51 is a perfect roadmap on how to do that. But it's owning the sin and confessing it and getting forgiven and forgiving yourself and just move on. I mean, it sounds simple, but it takes some work, right? But sin gets in the way of your relationship with God. He can't have anything to do with sin. So we have to be faithful enough to confess it and then repent and change our thinking about it and move on. You are responsible for your own choices. And that's one of the things we talked about. And the other one is we have to let our kids become accountable for their own choices. One of the biggest problems we have today, parents for a couple of generations now have not wanted their kids to be responsible for anything. The parents bail them out of jail. They make excuses for them. They blame the teacher, all this kind of stuff. And, my kid can't do anything wrong. Well, yeah, they can. And they have to own it. But if you own it, you own it. Right?
That's the reason why you call this generation sometimes the entitlement generation.
Yeah.
Because if you keep yelling them out,
yeah.
they feel entitled too.
Snowflakes.
They are entitled. I remember when I was a kid, if you walked out the door of the school, you got drugged back in and in trouble. I watched the other day, a kid literally walked out the front door of the school, and there's a staff member traveling behind him, and he's walking behind the desk. I mean, just completely uncontrollable. They couldn't touch him.
Yeah.
And I think that is absurd. Well, it doesn't matter, special needs or not. You still should be able to take the child by the hand, or if you have to restrain them or something where you're not hurting them, and take them back to what needs to be done. But I just think it's absurd that it's an entitlement stage at this point.
Yeah, my mother was a teacher, and back then it was totally okay for one of the teachers in their own classroom to bring out the old paddle and whack,
ruler,
whatever was handy, and no problem.
It was a fear.
Yeah, there was fear and a respect for authority. Right? Not anymore. Okay. Blended families, the dark side. One of the big things is you have to forgive your ex if there is one. The best way to treat them is to pray for them. Because if you're giving good for evil, then it puts that bucket of hot coals on their head. But like Carol said, ask the kids to forgive you. Generational curses stem from a lack of forgiveness from one generation to the other. Your parent did something to you, you didn't forgive them. 20 years later, you got your own kids, you've done something to them, now they don't forgive you because you didn't forgive your parent. Now that's 3 and 4 generations, or 4th and 5th, 3rd or 4th, 3rd and 4th generation. So by the time you get to the 5th one, they forgot what it was. So it's like it doesn't matter anymore. Okay. We already talked about the divorce being hardest on the kids. They get used as pawns and weapons. Forgive your ex. In this marriage, Ephesians 5:33, husbands, love your wife. Wives, respect your husbands. And step-parents, this is the biggest mistake they make. They don't realize they're stewards of God's kids. They have the attitude that they own their kids. So when I've got mine and you got yours, I don't want you messing with my kids. So my kids then are more important than you are. And spouses can't really function that way. They never become one flesh if the kids are in the way. Okay. And I think I mentioned it. Protect your current marriage from attacks by the exes. That's your responsibility, is to protect your other half. All right? You're one flesh, supposed to be on the same page. If the ex is constantly calling up, hey, I need you to come change the light bulb or change a tire, do all this kind of stuff, that happens.
Do my taxes.
Yeah, whatever. Yeah, they all kind of weird stuff. Hey, can you come paint the room for the kids? I mean, weird stuff, you know. But anyway, so there's a whole bunch of stuff that we have to deal with on the dark side. Exes are the biggest. Then you have your kids that are wounded as well, and you have to try to help them get healing, but it's their healing. It's not your healing for them. And it's important to realize that, again, strive to be whole. That's your job, to try to be whole and be okay with you. Be okay with yourself. You know, can you be by yourself and still be okay? Or do you have to have somebody with you? Right? If you can be okay by yourself, that's a pretty good indication you're good. Because you don't need anybody, but it's always nice to be with somebody, right?
It also goes back to if you even love yourself.
Oh, yeah.
If you live with yourself. If you can't live with yourself or like yourself, how do you expect someone else to live and like you?
Yeah, good question, right? But strive for wholeness, because God likes to multiply. He likes to multiply a whole one times a whole one, and that's how he gets one flesh out of two people. If you are not whole, and you try to get a relationship with somebody else that's not whole, you're just going to suck the life out of each other. It's like two vacuum cleaners.
Or running circles in opposite directions.
Yeah. You say hi on the way by, but that's about it. Okay, so that's a real quick look at the dark side. It's figuring out what you did and try to fix you, and understand your spouse is more important than your kids in a marriage. And kids need to be able to take time for themselves to be able to be healed. And just protect your current spouse from attacks by the exes. Okay, so that's good for week number 8.
Christian living, Christian living. Christian Living Radio. It's a lifestyle. Christian living, Christian living. Christian Living Radio. It's a lifestyle.
Christian Living Radio, spreading the good news of Jesus Christ 24/7. Our goal is to bring you a life-changing word through music and diverse programming, like the one you're listening to now. Pastor Kenyatta Goins is the visionary of Christian Living Radio, and he's dedicated to the idea that Christians should even have a more prominent presence in the marketplaces. Maybe you need prayer for yourself and or your family, maybe for a friend. We'd be privileged to stand in the gap for you. If you're listening to this broadcast, click on the Contact Us tab and send us your prayer request. We'd also like to hear from you if you have something on your mind, or just give us some feedback. We support many ministries, so maybe you'd like to make a one-time or a monthly recurring donation. We believe that when you sow into these ministries, you'll indeed be blessed. And of course, if you sow into this show in particular, we believe that it's a blessing for you, so please consider sponsoring us. There's a special area under the Donate tab where you can send your monetary gift, or call 520-812-6363. That's 520-812-6363 to receive more information about sponsorship. Thank you.